Hello and welcome to a special edition of the In the Money Players podcast. This one's also a live stream. Hello to everybody out there watching, whether it's through social media, Santa Anita's YouTube channel, In the Money Media YouTube channel. We welcome you. We've got great racing to talk about in the course of this show. PTF and JK from In the Money Media. And there's going to be more great coverage of this first Saturday coming up later tonight, just after the races on the Santa Anita YouTube channel. You can see our man Chappie with an all-star team of horse players. He's going to be going over in great detail the coast-to-coast Pick 5, one of our absolute favorite bets with its player-friendly terms, $1 minimum, 15% takeout, and crucially, the fact that CAW players are not participating directly in those pools. It's a retail-only wager. JK, I know you're a big believer in game selection, in voting with your dollar. I would imagine those are some of the reasons why this coast-to-coast bet is high on your list of things to look at when you're getting down on the weekends.
Yeah, the coast to coast, and I love the way that they do that because it just gives the player a little bit of an edge. You know, we talk about minimums all the time. Santa Anita's been at the forefront of raising minimums on a lot of different wagers and having some special wagers with higher minimums. I know that some players might not think that's player friendly, but they could not be more wrong. The CAWs, it's their game. Their game is to be as efficient as possible. And the easiest way to be efficient is to have the lowest denomination to be efficient with. When you have higher denominations, you become limited with how efficient you can be and how many combinations, potential combinations you can cover. And so there is more meat on the bone when the starting price is better because we are better players, I would think, as a whole in terms of in a one-off situation. In the long term, the CAWs are going to beat us because they have math on their side. We have feeling, though, and that feeling can really be exercised within one pool with a $2, $4, $5 minimum.
It's not just more combinations, too, as you point out, JK. It's the efficiency of being able to bet each combination for the right amount in a way that can kind of drain equity out of the pool sometimes. Don't have to worry about that in a bet like the Coast to Coast. We'll get to our quick views on the Gulfstream races that are in the Coast to Coast if we have time at the end of this stream. I think we will if we dive right into it, which is what we're going to do with stakes action. We'll start off with race number 3 at Santa Monica. You could say this about the next race, too. This a race short on numbers, but long on talent. Where are you going to go in the Grade 2 Santa Monica?
I'm going to go with the 3. How are we calling this horse, Pete?
Copian.
Copian. Yeah. Am I supposed to know what that is? Is it like a thing I'm supposed to know?
It's not a reference that I get. We're probably just ignorant. Tell you what, let us know in the comments.
I'll just text Andy Serling. He likes to yell at me about not knowing things.
It's not a reference to The Godfather or Taxi Driver.
Good. Baffert's going to take some money in here with all these horses, and I think just going against him as a whole in this spot helps. I just don't trust the 2 inside runners for him. The outside runner, I think, is probably a little bit overmatched, and I think the Richard Mandela second off the break is looking to jump right out here. It comes from a good family too. Omaha Beach out of a mare who produced Amy's Flatter, okay, a nice horse from back in the day. So give me Copian here, ice cold single.
I'm with you. And the case really becomes clear for me with Copian when you just look at those 7 furlong races. This is a lightly raced 5-year-old, still has upside. The condition arrow pointed straight up, with this being, as you point out, that second race off the layoff. Let's move on to the Triple Crown prep action in the form of the Robert and Beverly Lewis Stakes. Grade 3 action, going a mile, field of 5. Might be a bit of a match race. Is that how we're seeing it, JK?
Yeah, I mean, it feels like that between Citizen Bull and Rodriguez. Shout out Lanes Inn. We'll be rooting for Matticat Road with their quality road in there. But Citizen Bull is one of those horses where, I did not like him, not on a ticket in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. I thought that was going to be an East Coast dominated race with Jonathan's Way, Chancer McPatrick, and East Avenue. And Citizen Bull just jumped out there, got on the front, got comfortable, and ran them off their feet. I think the experience of Citizen Bull is going to help quite a bit. Rodriguez, very lightly raced, has only been around one turn once, and some will say, got the best of it last time. So give me Citizen Bull. I think it's a mistake to use both of them in here, unless you have some kind of opinion surrounding these races in the Pick 5, the early Pick 5, or whatever wager you you might be playing that makes you feel like you can't get beat here because you love a 20-1 shot somewhere else. Otherwise, if you're just playing this pretty formfully, I would try to settle on one of them, either for Rodriguez to be really damn good and to run by Citizen Bull at some point, and Citizen Bull to be what you would think maybe is a fraud. I'm going to go the other way around, though, and I'm going to take Citizen Bull here as my only horse.
Fraud is strong, but I'm with you and against you. I'm with you that those are the two. I'm with you that you should probably try to use one unless you're super clever elsewhere. But I'll make the Rodriguez case. I mean, basically, my Rodriguez case, I know Timeform had it as a speed favoring track. I think that's probably right. But this horse, all potential. And I just have so many questions about that race in terms of the form, with gaming having done nothing to boost up the performance in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, and just the fact that the race absolutely changed complexion when East Avenue didn't break. I don't know that you were wrong that it was meant to be an East Coast dominated race, that it might have been under other pace scenarios, but the way that it played out, everything was perfect for Citizen Bull. I'm going to let him beat me. I'm going to try the up-and-comer Rodriguez in the Bob and Beverly Lewis. Now we'll move on to two races that are part of that coast-to-coast bet we were talking about. They're also the first two races in the Pick Six, starting with Santa Anita, race number 5, this allowance race for fillies and mares, where 6.5 down the hill. And for me, number 4, Wordplay, is one of those milers with speed I always tend to think are going to enjoy the downhill course at Santa Anita. That race from opening day has produced some excellent form, and those blinkers could sharpen her up, I think. Number 10, Mysticism, I thought was an interesting potential pace play at a price. Hasn't been overly impressive on the track, but this is an awesome pedigree and one that suggests more ground's going to be her friend. By Warfront out of an arch dam. Hoping Mike Smith goes to the front from this advantageous outside post. Like Mike Smith on a couple of horses today, trying to wake him up. He's been a little cold, but I'm not sure you're going to keep a Hall of Famer down for too long. 4 and 10 for me in Santa Anita's 5th. How do you see it?
Yeah, look, I like the 4 Wordplay as well. Shameless plug. We had Simon Callahan on JK +1. You can check that out. And look, for all the same reasons, I think that this horse just makes the most sense on paper. From a speed figure standpoint, just looks like probably the best overall horse, and a horse that you know is going to handle that down the hill, the 6.5, especially with those blinkers getting added. I'm going to use the 6 as well, Run a Mile in My Shoes. A horse that has speed, has shown that speed prior, right? If you look through in a bunch of mile races, the same edge that you were, same angle you were talking about, those speed horses going a little bit longer, cutting back. And then the 11, Venganza, is one that I wanted to make sure I had, that is one that also that same kind of angle. And I love those outside draws. You know, remember the downhill course, you kind of go right before you go left. And I think that sometimes being towards the outside is a better place to be than being down on the inside. So I'll use the 11 as well. And then the one knock I had on the 10, and this is just one thing that I just want to point out more, not so much about this horse, but just horses like this in general, because I've had a couple of really smart horsemen tell me this. So I think Chad Brown had heard it from Bobby Frankel. So there's a couple of intelligent minds there. And then also Richie Migliori, that when you have a 5 furlong turf sprinter going down the hill, their weapon is that they're really fast. But when you're going down the hill, if anyone ever run down the hill before as a human, you're going fast because of gravity, and it takes away that weapon. And then when they do get to the top of the stretch, then it becomes a stamina game, and they don't have that stamina. That's not their weapon. Now, I'm not saying that 5 furlong horses can't win down the hill, but I do think it's at least something to consider in your handicapping when you're looking at these down the hill races, is that weapon that they have is kind of thrown out the window.
Let's go to race number 6, the grade 3 megahertz fillies and mares, once again going 1 mile. People often talk about the biggest drop in racing being from maiden special weight company to maiden claiming company, and there's certainly a case to be made for that. But another really big drop that you don't often hear people talk about is the drop from grade 1 company to any other type of stake. I don't love grade 1 necessarily going back to allowance or certainly claiming, but when a grade 1 horse goes in another stake, sometimes they can have an advantage more than just the paper will say. Number 4, Rashmi, has that angle going for her. Her preferred trip is to be forward, and I think she's going to be able to achieve that position a lot better against this level of competition. Torrey was aboard for the maiden win, and I think he's so good at coaxing something extra out of the finish. I'm going to put Rashmi on top in here. I will also be prominently using the number 3 runner, Sariha. Got a good setup last time, but was doing some running into the fastest part of that race, looking at the pace line, and the fig she earned makes her a major threat. Looking at pace figures, don't think she's going to be too far back. the reformed claimer is going to be tested for class here for sure. And I definitely prefer Rashmi, but I'll have plenty of 3s on my tickets as well. You like those? You like somebody else here, JK, in the megahertz?
Yeah, I'm going to use the 5 and the 6 as B horses. I don't have a lot to say. They're just horses that kind of make me a little nervous in a sequence where I feel like I can get a little skinny in other places. I don't want to get beat by those horses, so I'll go ahead and get that out of the way now. I agree with you on Rashmi, and plus I think Jonathan Thomas does an outstanding job. I think he's a great trainer, and he's really smart at the spots that he picks. I often feel like he ships around to places to find where his horses can excel. I want to use the 1 Liguria as well. And here's the reason why. I'm typically not one of those types that loves the cut and line to bet horses that are coming off Hall of Famers or future Hall of Famers, right? It's that idea that they've probably got what they can get out of the horse. They're great trainers. If Chad can't win with her, how's someone else going to win with her? But there is a circle of trainer that when horses move from one to the other, I don't necessarily have a problem with that. A Chad to McCarthy, a McCarthy to Chad, a Baffert to Todd, a Todd to Chad, a Brad Cox to Baffert, a Brad Cox to Chad. That circle of greatness, it doesn't make me uncomfortable, especially because I do think that sometimes little tweaks, little changes in training can make the difference for a horse that maybe there's just something about Chad's operation that this individual just didn't really like. And maybe just switching to Michael McCarthy's will kind of wake her up to a certain extent. I'm not going to get beat by her. She's shown some talent at least, and it's possible that she could do well here. And it just kind of reminds me of another thing. And funny enough, Andy Serling's kind of championed this as well. The idea that you want to claim this, I know this is not a claiming situation, but it reminded me about this. The idea that you want to claim from an 0 from 40 trainer because you're going to move the horse up. I think you got to understand that you're better off claiming off of a Todd or a Chad because you know that every box has been checked and you know that they've gotten the best care, the best the best training, the best riders, the best everything. And I think that sometimes the switch from good to good can actually be can work well, even at this level.
I would argue that claiming point completely the other way. I mean, to me, it's like, who do you want to be the coach of? The one that's had everything their own way and still can't achieve, or one that there's these fundamental things you can change and be better. But not
the best example I'll give you. Yeah, well, the best example I'll give you is a Tom Brady leaving a Bill Belichick and going to Tampa Bay and winning a Super Bowl. Would you rather have that, or would you rather have and I know that he's a really good player, so this is a hard comparison, but bear with me here. Or do you want a Jameis Winston who's been damaged goods? And then you get to there, and it's not a fixable thing at this point. The mind has already just been too polluted with bad coaching to be able to turn it around.
It's a different situation if they're already good and achieving. That is the case, certainly, with Liguria. My issue with Liguria is more the layoff. And what are we going to see from her first back? I struggled, and I eventually left her out for ticket cost reasons, but I'm glad somebody made a good case for her. So you're so no Saria for you in there, just 4-1 on the A line, 5-6 on the B line.
No, I just went on a tangent, and so yeah, I'll use the 3s and A as well.
That's very funny. I'm glad I asked. I would have sent out some dodgy notes. Actually, in addition to the usual notes I send out to the In the Money Plus crew, I am going to do a little write-up of all these races we're talking about, and I'll include JK's selections as well. Folks can find those for free over at inthemoneypodcast.com, where we have daily racing tips and analysis, including on Santa Anita from Dean Kepler, one of our by far most popular writer over there at inthemoneypodcast.com, followed not too far away by our man and friend Nick Tamro. My stuff can't sniff what they do, but hey, that's life in the big city. Let's go to race number 7. We've got an allowance race going 6 furlongs on the dirt, and this is one of those, how many words do you need to do the race in? You might be able to just take 2 and say pilot commander, triple fig, and in other words, the last 3 races faster than any of the others have ever run. And the other problem is, if this one isn't going to win, I can't tell you who will. So for me, it's single pilot commander and move on. Anything to add, my friend?
No, this is a strong single. I mean, I talk about all the time is I don't have a problem with a short price horse. I just want to feel warm and fuzzy when I do it. And the way that is when you start doing however you handicap, when you start circling and you end up with like 17 circles is when every box looks like it's right. It's like he's cutting back from a speed duel against better from going 7 to 6. check. His pace figures have him at the 6 furlong call, like winning. He's taking blinkers off for Baffert, strong move, and he's getting Lasix back. He's second off a break. He's drawn well. It's just like gone.
Every angle that it can go in a Pilot Commander's direction pretty much does. Let's go back to some stakes action in race number 8, Grade 3 Thunder Road, going 1 mile around this Santa Anita Oval. And there's a horse in here that I'm a known fan of. That's number 9, Seal Team. That form line within 2 lengths to Superstar Johannes makes him an obvious and major contender. I do not love this post, but I do think the horse has enough tactical speed to navigate the trip. I will use El Potente as well, the 7 runner. This one tested for class for sure as a reform claimer, but looking at collateral lines of form, this one was only beaten half a length by Mi Hermano Ramon, who beat Johannes, that didn't beat Johannes, who beat Seal Team a little bit more than that. So, hey, I'm not going to be too literal about that, but it certainly suggests El Potente belongs, as do the overall figures. 9 and 7 on the A line. And I think I'm going to throw in on A B line the 2 Air Force Red, who I think has a puncher's chance just because of the speed. This horse has run some big races on the engine, should be very sharp, second off the layoff for a shrewd barn, stretching back out. And you look back to an effort like that 23 Kilrow Mile, that could put this horse right there on the wire. Didn't love the 3-1 on the morning line, if that's right. You know, I do prefer the others, but I also don't want to get knocked out by a clear pace play that might just work out. How do you see the Thunder Road?
Yeah, I'm going to be quick because I do want to tangent here a little. So I'm going to take the 7 and 9 as A's. I'm going to go 2, 3, 5 as B's. And you said a name in here, Johannes, that really struck something that I'm going to step on top of this soapbox for. First of all, Pete, you have to help me do my paperwork for the National Turf Riders thing because they need the Eclipse of.
Oh, isn't it terrible he didn't win? Is that where you're going? Am I stepping on you by saying that?
No, I thought Carl should have won. He won 2 grade 1s. He won 4 races. Johannes won 1 grade 1, I think, in 5 races. So, and I understand Johannes did have the second in the Breeders' Cup, but I will say this. One of those 2 should have won, whether it be Johannes or Carl Spackler. And the people who voted for Rebels Romance off of 1 race is the dumbest thing I have ever seen in the history of Eclipse Award voting. Good, he's a great horse and an accomplished horse, but it's not a national award and it's not a 1-race award. And I don't understand how voters who either didn't vote for Johannes or didn't vote for Carl Spackler, and look, 2024 was the year of get out and vote. I'm going to get out and vote next year because
I like it.
That was wild.
We can make that happen.
And also stop abstaining. Do your homework.
Tangent on top of tangent. I love it. While we're tangenting, I thought the race on Boxing Day, combined with the Breeders' Cup, got him just ahead of Carl. I do like Carl. I would have voted for Carl ahead of Rebels Romance as well. Reasonable minds can disagree on that, but I do think that, right, they say in the instructions they send out, you're supposed to consider what they did in North America. So for Rebels Romance, yeah, that's one race.
Someone annoyingly, I bet you 25% of the annoying people that voted for him just looked at earnings and was like, oh, he won a lot of money.
Right, and probably didn't pay attention to the fact that Johannes had won another huge race after the.
They already turned in their paperwork. Yeah. It's unfortunate.
It's no bueno. All right, we'll get that taken care of. Race number 9, 3-year-old Calbred Maidens going 6 furlongs on the dirt. You could really spread in here, and I was gonna try to take a stand on 2 of the runners coming out of the common race, and maybe I want to hear what you say too, but maybe fade the other 2. So Berlin Wall, obvious to me, has to be my top pick. Did not break at all in that race, moved well into it. And that was a race where the 1-2 runner stayed that way all the way around the track, making this one's wide move, maybe a spot of trouble around the turn too. All the more impressive. This horse is supposed to improve and be very dangerous in this spot. So Gray Area was the horse that was 3rd in that race to the top 2 that ran around the track, but was just in a bad spot. Even though the horse was kind of close, was just in a bad spot, kind of wide, kind of chasing. And I just didn't think it was an easy trip. And the other 2, for me, the horse that was 2nd was the favorite there, was supposed to go by and didn't. And then the other horse, who was the other horse? The horse that ran 4th, I just didn't like. You could say that horse was green and is going to improve, and maybe you're right, but I just didn't like the horse's action throughout, save ground, found nothing kind of a thing. So anyway, for me, I'm going to go 4-3 for now. I'm considering, and if I can afford it, maybe trying to squeeze in those other two because they are logical. But yeah, 4-3 for me. Who do you like?
Yeah, just 4-6 for me. I mean, I think the 4 you covered pretty well. I needed to reiterate off that trip, just the way that horse ran. You'd like to think that, break a little bit better. It's even a kind of a horse that could even single. The problem I have is when it's a first start, when it's a horse with one start who breaks slowly. And then you think, oh, well, next time when they break cleanly, then they're going to obviously be in a much better position. They're going to win. But the problem is that the one thing I hesitate with that is that, well, maybe this horse is a horse that breaks slowly and maybe he's going to do it again. We don't know if it's who he is or if it's because he was learning. So he's obviously going to be my top choice. But for me, I'll take the 6 because the thing that you complained about the 6, where looked like he was going to go by and didn't, the solution to that can sometimes be blinkers, and they're adding blinkers. So
yeah, that's a fair point.
To answer your concern, they've answered your concern with blinkers. I'll just go 4-6 in here. I'll let the 3 and the 9 beat me.
Okay, I think on your say so, and that's an excellent point about let me in. I think I'll squeeze that one onto some tickets as a backup, 4 and 6 for you. One other point on that, didn't break, so they're going to break better this time. I think it's a mistake to do that with a horse that was a big price first out and didn't break. With a horse that was bet like that to me suggests this horse had shown speed and has speed and just didn't get to show it that day. So I'll be a lot more forgiving with a horse that was bet and didn't break than one that wasn't bet and didn't break, if that logic makes any sense to you. Let's go to race number 10. Oh, this is good. We are going to have time to get to these Gulfstream races. That makes me happy. Let's talk about race 10. 1 mile allowance on the turf, field of 11, huge race here, capping off all the late picks. A lot of my money is going to be tied up in this race, JK. I'm going to make you talk about it first.
Yeah, I'm gonna use there's 2 horses in here I need as A's. The 6 Jewel Shillelagh. I think people know my affection for Michael McCarthy as a trainer. Tactical speed, horse is drawn well. Hadn't run since November 2nd prior to last time, so should take a step forward off of that effort. And then the 7 Ciro DiMarzio. If this horse shows up, I mean, the horse has been training in Santa Anita, so I would imagine the horse is out there. Wesley will sometimes enter some out there, take a look at the injuries, and then decide if he's going to put them on a plane with someone else or not. This one seems like they'll run. So that's another one who I thought was interesting. You get Mike Smith for a horse. If you watch the replay, was pretty aggressive last time. Kind of pulled a little bit. Mike learns from those mistakes. I think if a horse is fighting him a little bit much, I think the next time around he'll just kind of drop his hands. I remember seeing some social video with him teaching Irad and Jose on the Equicizer at Belmont one day about where he drops his hands when he's allowing a horse to be free running. It's one of Mike's biggest strengths if you look throughout his career. So all I need here to get paid is the 6 and the 7.
All right, wow, that's bold, and that's a way to build up some equity in a race where I think a lot of people are going to be spreading. I had both of yours. I did have Jewel Shillelagh as my top pick. One aside joke, when you said, I know I'm a big fan of, you mentioned Jewel Shillelagh, and then you said, I'm a big fan of, and you said Mike McCarthy. I thought you were going to say Irish Ephemera based on the Jewel Shillelagh name. But anyway, this horse, it's going to be a very different pace scenario than last time. That was slow. This is going to be faster. But I think Rispoli, who rides the turf so well out in California, especially these 2-turn turf races, I think is going to be able to time this well and adapt to whatever pace situation and make the best of it. So that one I'm with you. I had the 7 Ciro DiMarzio as a backup, big figure for the stateside debut while not acting well during the race. Untapped upside, I just didn't trust. The other one I thought to make a case for was the 1 Freeport Joe to run on, more for underneath, but also a little bit for on top. This, of course, is grade 3 placed on synth, has run a couple of 87s on the Beyer scale on turf that stack up with this field. Good draw. And it is weird that they only ran this 8-year-old warrior on dirt for the first time at 7. Those are the last 2 lines that we see in our faces. And maybe they're lower figures because the horse is declining, but maybe he's just better on turf and synth. And if there's a pace boil over in here, this could be the one to benefit. So I want some 1s also. 6 and 1 with the 7 on the backup line. And then you once told me many moons ago, JK, when a certain film came out, you told me you were culturally obligated to go see it, talking about Black Panther. Does that mean you're culturally obligated to include T'Challa for just a penny?
Oh my God! I was like, "What did I say? What's he gonna say? What's he gonna say?" Yeah, I should probably use that horse at least as a B horse.
Let's go to Gulfstream Park real quick, my friend, and talk about in a speedy round. No tangents allowed at this point because we got to get through these races. This one, the Kittens Joy Stakes, kicks off the coast-to-coast bet, one of our favorite bets, as we have detailed. 8-horse field in here. What do you want on your tickets to get things started?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can lock it up with 3 horses, and I know that in a situation that you're taking the 3 favorites, but I think you can lock the race up, move on in a race where, I mean, people will use others. The 4 Tiz Dashing, who I thought was closing into a slow pace last time, so that figure doesn't really look as the race doesn't look as good as the figure might suggest, and then the race looks better than the figure might suggest. And then the 6 Test Score, who I've been impressed with for a very long time. This horse has just always kind of run well and gets the first start as a 3-year-old for Grand Motion. And then towards the outside, Mibago is another one who I thought just you needed to have in here. Tactical speed, drawn outside, should be able to work out a trip from out there. So I feel like I can lock it up with those 3.
For me, it was all about Test Score, just such a live look. Kicking off this coast-to-coast bet. Among the best numbers in the field, has had 3 months to grow up since we last saw Test Score on the track. And that run, I thought, was also just a little bit better than it looked for this colt, trying to close into a slow pace that was coated blue on Time Form US throughout. And today, facing a field where the pace is going to be spicy, I think, should play well to his late running style. Let's go to, after that, we go to race 5 at Santa. Then we're back for the Holy Bull, race number 11, a race we've got a video up elsewhere on the YouTube channel. Give me your thoughts.
Yeah, look, I mean, we talked about it on another show. The morning after, I texted Ramiro Restrepo, who owns Ferocious, and I said, what'd you think? And he said, blinkers next time. He said that on November 2nd. So, or maybe it was the 3rd. I called him on Sunday. And so that was the plan all along. And this horse has shown so much talent, and there's just no way he's not good. I just won't believe it. He's run second to 2 Grade 1 winners. I think he's going to be tough in here. I do want to have the 7 Burnham Square, a Liam's Map colt that is drawn outside. I thought ran extremely well. When Ian Wilkes gets a good one and one that wins like this early in the career, that horse can typically continue to kind of go on. So I'll use those 2 as A's. The 3 and the 4 I thought were more B types. I just don't quite trust Guns Loaded as the races get longer.
For me, Ferocious on the top line. Tappan Street right behind him, 4 and 3 is A's, and I like your case for Burnham Square. I had as well. Burnham Square, the B for me, hoping might be a little bit more of a price. We've got about 2 minutes, JK, and 1 more race to do, so we're in good shape. Forward gal for these 3-year-old fillies. Race number 12, this closes out the coast-to-coast sequence. When it comes to this and all these late picks at Gulfstream, how are we going to get paid?
Yeah, I mean, the 9 Rojo Rita looks pretty tough for Saffie Joseph. Saffie's just, obviously hitting on all cylinders. Also a plug, last week's JK +1, Saffie Joseph. 9 and 11, I want to have in here. They just make the most sense to me. They're drawn well. But Justin Queso, not only is it an amazing name, it's another horse that I think that is interesting. Ian Wilkes doesn't typically win first time out. Now, I know this horse was put up because of a DQ, but it's one of those situations where he was in a position, he won a winning type race. So there's another step forward for him. And if he takes that, if she takes that step forward, I think that she could be interesting. And I just wanted to point out, I thought it was interesting that Queen's MG with the rider change to IRAD when Dylan was on for both of those wins up at Saratoga. But I just don't quite trust her. I think she was one of those that was just ahead of the curve this summer as a 2-year-old, or last summer, I guess. And so give me the 9 and the 11 as A's. I'll use the 3 as a B, depending on the final price of the ticket and depending on what sequence I'm talking about. Maybe the 3 gets elevated to an A.
Okay, nice stuff. I'm with you. I had Stunner on top. Just needs to meet out those fractions a little bit more evenly. Florida Bred's already won an open stake and could be seen to really good effect here. Rojo Rita, I really like as well. Your other A, all the promise in the world. This horse is not beating me, blasting off against an overmatched field last time, but doing so in really impressive fashion. One other I'll mention, the 7 Eclatant, failed to oblige as the favorite in the Goldenrod, but was not disgraced. This horse also probably went a little too fast early, and you have the old why enter 2 when one would do angle for Mr. Cox. So that's how I see it, 11, 9, and 7. We're out of time. Thank you, JK. Make sure you check out Chappie later today on YouTube and bet this card and the Gulfstream card on Saturday. Terrific racing on this first Saturday for PTF and JK. May you win all your photos.